Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Good morning, depending on where you are in the world. This is Brad Walsh, your host of the Empowerography podcast. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Marcy Ferro, an artist, painter, YouTube aficionado, and just an all-around awesome woman based out of Los Angeles, California, live with me here today. So, Marcy, how you doing today?
I'm good. Hey, everybody.
It's nice to have you on the podcast. Finally, we're able to get our schedules in sync and have you as a guest on here. I've been wanting to get you on here for a while, so this is good that we're able to do it.
Yeah.
What's the weather like today?
It's like 70. It's pretty good.
Nice. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump in. I'm just curious. I've been kind of wrestling with this subject on my own in my own head and trying to figure out, and I'm going to write a blog post about it. But I was just curious your thoughts. Another artist, do you think that people are born with artistic ability, or is this something that can be taught, practiced, and honed, and eventually someone can become artistic, or is it a bit of both?
I think both. And I think that really applies to anything in life. Like, I don't think I was like born knowing perfect shading and, light and color mixture and blah, blah, blah. Like I didn't really know all those things when I was born. Definitely had an artistic inclination, but it's something that I've just been practicing my whole life. And people go, "Oh my gosh, you're so good at that." And I'm like, yeah, because I've done it a million times. It's just a lot of practice. And I think that really applies to anything. So there's definitely people that I'm sure are more artistically inclined than others.
Right.
But overall, it's just putting your heart into it and just practicing.
Right. Yeah, the reason I was curious about that is because, some people are just born with a natural musical talent or musical gift, or athletes. Some of them are just born natural, like they have that ability in them. So I was just curious about the whole artistic thing in that regard as well, how that would play out. I mean, I guess some are born with that inclination, as you said. But I guess it can be honed and practiced. If you work at it hard enough, you can become artistic, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to just switch the subject just a tiny bit, but take music, for example, because you brought that up. Personally, I love to sing. Like, it's one of my favorite things in the world. Now, am I anywhere near as good as my husband or, whoever, I don't know, Madonna or whatever? No, not at all. But I can look at my singing ability from 15 years ago and compare it to now. I'm like 6,000 times better because I've been practicing and practicing and practicing. And just, so that's an ability. I don't think I was like born with an amazing voice. Like, some people really are truly born with an amazing voice. Other people, you really got to work at it. It has to be something you really want. I'm one of those people. It's something I really want. So I'm going to work hard and I'm going to go do vocal lessons. I got to do the warm-ups. I got to study how the voice works and how, pitch and all that stuff. So it's something that I really have to work at. It doesn't necessarily come naturally to me, but I have the drive and desire to do it. So I'm going to do it. And now I'm recording an album.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Let's see here. What do you wish you had known when you first started out as an artist? Is there anything in particular that sticks out that you wish you knew, that you know now you didn't back then?
I feel like the biggest thing is I wish I hadn't waited. Like, I know the funny thing is I'm only 34, okay? And so there's a lot of people that are, in their 50s, 60s or whatever that are really just starting their art career. And while it is something I've been working on for a long time, there's a lot of things that I feel like I pushed off until later, like, oh, have to make money now and have to have a job and be stable and whatever, like all this stuff. And I just wish I had started earlier with knowing that I really could do it, and just like putting my all into it, I think is probably the biggest thing. Just knowing that I could do it. You watch movies and read books and whatever, it's always like the starving artist, and that's kind of the general consensus. And so I think a lot of people go into agreement with that, and I did personally agree with that for years. Of course, also the person that I was in a relationship with was like, yeah, art is not a career, and you know, it's a joke to have that dream, which did definitely slow me down. But I think just once I decided to no longer agree with that, and just do it, that's when my life kind of took this big turn, you know?
So what do you say for people that are wanting to start a career in art, and they've been told, oh, art is, because I've heard that many times too, you can't make money at art. This is not a career. That's a hobby. What do you say to people that have heard that, and you've heard it yourself? So what do you say to the naysayers when you hear that type of negativity or that type of attitude or thought process?
The only thing is just put it out. Like just ignore it 100% as much as you possibly can. It's very difficult to completely ignore things like that, and I know that. But you just have to, like, well, first of all, look at that person. That's probably the first thing. Look at that person. Is that person happy? Are they successful? Are they doing extremely well in life? 99.9% of the time, the answer will be no. So therefore, you can just ignore them. Sometimes it is a successful person. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything either. They may have made their money in, you know, not so happy ways or illicit ways or whatever. You know, it's everybody can change their own thinkingness, and I only let positive people influence me. If I see someone that's happy and successful and doing well, then I'm going to take advice from them. If they are not, then I'm not going to. I'm going to just ignore it, and I will be nice and cordial and be like, okay, thank you for letting me know. Yeah. But then I'm going to just keep doing what I'm doing and ignore it.
This theme keeps popping up lately. Surround yourself with like-minded people. So yes. That definitely helps the attitude and helps you. I think it helps people to keep their drive going and be more driven and focused on what they want to do when you surround yourself with like-minded people and positive people.
Yeah, it's like, why would a broke person take financial advice from a broke person? You know what I mean? You wouldn't. You would take financial advice from someone who manages their money well and has plenty of it and knows what to do with it. It's the same thing with any career, and definitely the arts. The arts are probably the most attacked area, like, in life. Like, artists are the most attacked because I think they're doing something just so good and beautiful that it's the easiest to attack.
Yeah, you're right. I think people pick on artists and think that, like we said, that's not a real career and you can't make money off of that. And it's kind of sad when you hear that all the time from people.
Yeah, but art changes the world.
Exactly.
You know, art changes everything. Fashion, movies, books, that's all art, and it changes everything. You look at the Renaissance, the Golden Age of Greece, you know, like all of these things that came after dark periods in history. Art is such a huge impact. So anyone that is negative to artists or puts down artists, in my book, is not a good person. Like, they have something seriously wrong with them. You know, it is probably the profession that should be supported and pushed the most, in my opinion.
But what I find too, though, with art and artists and the art world, and people, because of that attitude that they have about art, they think that art should be free. If they're interested in purchasing a painting, or in my case, a photograph or a photo set, they think it should be free because it's not really valued. I don't think art is valued.
Yeah, I think that's true. But the value is going to unfortunately come from the person themselves. If you don't value your own work, then others will not value it either. And this is something funny that I do is every time my art sales slow down, I go in and I raise the price.
Really?
Every single time. Yeah. So usually like 2 or 3 times a year, I'll go in and I'll raise my prices by 10%. And then the sales just pick back up.
That's amazing.
I know, it's really weird. And I don't totally understand it myself, but it's all the perceived value.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you perceive the value of something higher, then you want it more and whatever, you know, like it's this whole thought
psychology
process.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So but you have to value your work yourself. If you're not sure of your value, or if you're like on the fence on it yourself, you're going to probably have a really hard time selling anything.
Well, I think you'll put that attitude or that vibe out there for people, and people will pick up on it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Have you had any formal art training, or are you all self-taught?
All self-taught.
Amazing. That's awesome.
I didn't do well in art classes because I'm not really like a good follower.
You like to color outside the lines.
Yeah, it was like, sit here and draw this. And I'd be like, I don't want to draw that. I want to draw this over here. Or I want to draw something out of my head. And anyways, it generally speaking never went well. I still love my art teachers from school to death. But yeah, I never had any particular college or like specific art classes other than what I learned in school.
Right. Okay. Could you tell me about one time when you absolutely knew? Was there one pivotal moment where you knew you had to be an entrepreneur or an artist as your career? Is there any one moment that sticks out?
Well, I like had a job my whole life, and then in 2014, I was actually talking to my friend who is a business owner. She's a nutritionist, and I was telling her that I wanted to open an art studio, and she just literally was like, "You should do that right now. Here's the name of a realtor, and like, here, I'll help you plan it and whatever." Like,
wow.
It made it real to me as something that I could do now, and I didn't have to like wait for a billion years until I was like somehow magically rich. You know, I was like, I could actually do that right now. Now, mind you, it did totally tank. I did open the studio and it totally failed and whatever, but the point is it showed me that I could do it, and I learned so much from it. And I've twice gone back and had like a job, but it lasted for like 5 seconds because I'm like, nope, that's not my life. I am an entrepreneur. I am a, jump out of the airplane and build a parachute on the way down kind of person. It's like I would rather just go for it and live my life being miserably passionate than being in a cubicle. Like I couldn't do it.
And being in a cubicle and being miserable. That's a very interesting term. Miserably passionate. I like that. That's a great term. I've never heard that before. But it's better to have tried it at least. At least that way you you tried. You're not going to be thinking 10 years down the road, oh shit, I really wish when I was thinking about it, I opened that studio 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and it was it's ironic because I had that happen, and then last year there was also a specific point where I don't know, things were kind of just like really down in my life, which is funny because everything was actually going really well, but just myself, I felt like I was kind of like losing my direction and not really sure what I was doing. I kind of woke up again and I was kind of like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not doing what I want to do. I'm doing what I have to do. And I actually now have the opportunity to actually do what I want to do. Like, I can go take that trip. I can hop in my car and drive away, and I can go meet up with that artist and do that collaboration. And I can, and that actually started a huge growth on my YouTube channel, because that's when I just literally got up the next morning and I drove to the Grand Canyon, and then I drove to Texas and I met up with an artist and did my first like collab and my first live video on YouTube. Yeah. And then after that, I went and saw Stone Coat, and then I went to Canada and saw you and saw Melly D. And then it just started this whole thing of like, what am I waiting for? Like, am I waiting for these guys to come to me? why not? I want to travel and see the world. Why not just go do it? And that's been really successful. Like nothing has died, nobody has like failed or it's like gone really well. And I definitely found myself to be a lot happier, and it's exciting. It's very adventurous, and I like the not waiting, and just if I want to get something done, I'll go get it done.
Yeah. So what piece of advice then would you give other women who are maybe on the fence about starting their own business, whether it be in art or whatever the case may be? They want to start a business, but they're on the fence and they're not sure or ready about how to jump or if they should. What piece of advice would you give women who are in that position?
Okay, I have two things that automatically come to my mind. First is to get rid of the negative people in your life. Okay. And that could be unfortunately a family member. It could be your spouse or something. But if that person is telling you that you cannot achieve your goals and your dreams, like it's going to be such an unpleasant battle. It's, I just think it's not worth it. And I'm not saying like you have to no longer talk to that family member, but maybe reduce the connection a little bit and just have pleasantries or whatever, but don't, you want to surround yourself with those positive people. If you have someone that's literally just holding you down and holding your back, you need to get that out of your life or you won't be able to succeed. It'll be a constant struggle and you'll be really unhappy. And then the second thing is to learn from successful people. So find a person or 2 or 10 that are doing what you want to do, more or less, because there's many ways to succeed. It could be on the internet. It could be, if you're talking about a visual artist, it could be in galleries, it could be art fairs, it could be online, it could be all over. There's tons of ways. Find someone that's doing something that you want to do and learn from them. Pretty much all the good people in the world are willing to mentor others. Yeah. And I have an open door policy myself. So people write to me in any way, shape possible. Like they Instagram me, Facebook me, email me, sometimes even text or call me, which is a little annoying, but whatever. Sometimes I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
But I have an open door policy and I go through and I answer all the questions that I possibly can. And I had to have a lot of help getting to where I am. So of course I'm going to help others get to wherever they can get to. Pay
it forward kind of thing. That's amazingly selfless. And I think that most people, in the art community or I think overall, I think most people are more than willing to help others for the most part. If you ask, all you have to do is ask. If you don't ask, you're never going to get the help. And the worst someone can say is, no, sorry, I can't do that. Then you move on to the next person, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of success, you had mentioned successful people and success. How would you define success, Marcy?
I mean, it's not like a monetary value on it. It's not like, oh, they have $1 million in savings. It's pretty much the person's happy and doing what they want to do.
Awesome. I love that answer. That's a great answer.
Yeah.
What did you give up or sacrifice to get where you are today?
Honestly, not a lot. The only thing is, well, I don't have a house. So it's like I took that money that I could have definitely went and purchased a house with, and I invested it in my business because I think a lot more long term. The thing that I really, really struggled with, and this is like really personal, is my husband and I, we can't have children.
Right.
So there's obviously like in vitro or adoption, and those are both very expensive options. And generally speaking, especially for adoption, you have to have a house too, and all kinds of other things in place. So that's been kind of something that's weighed on my mind pretty heavily since around that 2004 time period. Oh my gosh, that was 5 years ago now. But anyways, it's like, at that time, me and my husband had to sit down and be like, okay, what thing do we want to do? We can't do it all right now. Do we want to invest the money in ourselves, in the business, and then worry about kids later? Or would we rather do the reverse? And we chose to invest in our business. Yeah. And it's kind of ironic because we're now at the stage where we're starting to revisit that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm like kind of hinted at adoption and stuff. We'll see. But yeah, that's been the hardest thing for me is other things that I definitely want in my life, but I have to kind of make the choice to put that on the back burner too.
Right. Well, it takes a very strong person and mature person to be able to realize and figure out what's most important at the time and put those things aside and separate those things and figure out where your focus should go.
Yeah, that's definitely not easy, but it's something that has to be done. Otherwise, you get yourself into just a big fat maybe where you don't do anything because you can't decide.
Right. So what do you think is your unique skill set or superpower that has helped you become successful?
I think my persistence, like I have kind of an insane persistence and drive. Yeah, I mean, it's like you have to really be able to stick with things for long enough to really make them work and make them succeed. And I think that's where a lot of artists maybe fall down to is they try for like a few months or a little while and it doesn't go and then they just give up and they go back to doing something else. I've never really had like a plan B.
Right.
You know, I'm just I'm going to make it and that's that. And I don't have a doubt in my mind. I don't have a backup plan. I don't actually need one either though, because I also make income from so many sources.
Right.
And it's not also all my eggs in one single basket. So if one thing were to fail, I have another 10 sources of income.
Okay.
But yeah, just being very persistent and knowing 100% that I can do this.
That's awesome. That's a great way to look at it and a great way to think, and have multiple sources of income, and just that there is no room for failure.
Yeah.
That's amazing. As an artist, painter, which other artists, do you admire or look up to? Are there any 2 or 3 in particular that you admire their work and look up to them?
I mean, that's kind of a funny thing. Like, I've never really had any artist in history that's super stuck out to me and like, oh my gosh, I'm so in love with Van Gogh or whatever, you know. I definitely like Jackson Pollock.
Okay.
Because I think that's kind of more my style. And I think he was very like, think outside the box and I don't really care what you guys think. And then there's definitely contemporary artists. I mean, I learned mixed media from a girl named Clara Berta.
Okay.
And she is another Los Angeles artist, a very, very successful mixed media artist. And I don't even know how I came across her. I think it was just around the time where I was starting to get more into the business of art. And she like, I don't know. Anyways, I came across her somehow in the world and we became friends. And yeah, I learned a lot about mixed media from her. So it's kind of the same thing of find people that are doing what you want to do and kind of see if you can get them to mentor you.
Right.
I took her classes and I take all kinds of art classes because there's so many different forms of art and everybody does things differently. So
Right.
Yeah.
How important is that attitude of I don't give a shit whether you in particular like my art, I'm creating for me, as opposed to, because I noticed that some people get stuck in this tunnel or mindset of, oh, I have to create art for other people. I have to have the approval of other people for my art. What are your thoughts on that mindset?
That's a great question. I think you have to find a balance, and I think it's very difficult to find that proper balance because no, you cannot say, you know, F the world and I don't care if anybody likes me, because, well, then no one's going to like you and you'll get like 2 people buying your art as opposed to, you know, whatever, thousands. So there's not, but you can't go completely the other direction to where you have no integrity and you just, you know, all of your your artistic endeavors are based off of the needs and wants of others. That doesn't work either, because then you don't put your heart and soul and creativity into that. So you definitely have to find the balance. I think more so in the direction of maintaining your integrity, but there are three things. There's public relations, there's marketing, and there's sales. So if you do not know those things and use those things in life, it's going to be very hard to actually sell things,
right?
Unless you maybe know a famous person or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not really conducive to a sales career, which art is.
So when you're starting out creating a piece of art, though, do you have in mind that you're creating for you first and foremost, or do you set out with, okay, I'm creating this for these people or this group of people? No.
Yeah, no, it's definitely all my own kind of thought. And I mean, luckily I've found my right audience for that, because I do like to do all kinds of experiments and try out unusual things that maybe other people haven't tried out or that just seem like fun. I do a lot of commission work as well, but even in those, for pieces that I do commission, I make sure that person has to know my work very, very well, because it's going to reflect my work. It's not going to, I don't care if they tell me I want a dog with a top hat on a bicycle. It's still going to be my version of that.
Right.
It's not going to be somebody else's version. It's going to be my version of that. No matter how detailed they want, they have to be very familiar with my work, because that's what it's going to reflect. It's not going to be somebody else's work. And if they want something that's not my style of work and wouldn't reflect what I'm doing, then I wouldn't do the commission.
Right.
But generally people don't ask you to do that. They have seen your work and they like your work and they want a piece of your work.
Yeah, exactly.
Commissions aren't really an issue. I've never had an issue with a commission piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you say is your biggest high or greatest win to date up to now with your business? What's your biggest win?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't think I can answer that one, because I don't have I don't hit a goal and then that's like an end all. But there's always the next goal. There's always the next goal. So obviously, like, hitting 100,000 subscribers was amazing. Like, that was such a win. And getting
that to people for the people that don't know that you are
don't know YouTube.
A YouTuber.
Well, so on YouTube, I mean, getting to 1,000 subscribers is like the first hurdle. That's pretty hard. But then after that, it's 100,000 is the goal. And that's kind of the first YouTube milestone, really. Okay. So they send you a silver play button and everything.
Wow.
Is engraved with your name. And it's like a big deal. So yeah, that was really, really a good acknowledgement, and really showed me that I really could do that. And from there also, it just, I don't know. I mean, I got a book deal as well.
Awesome. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah. So that was also just really a win for me, because I've always wanted to write a book. I didn't have any specific type in mind. Like, it wasn't like I want to write an art book or a nonfiction, whatever, I just wanted to have a book published. It was on my bucket list. So then when I was approached by a publisher, that was just huge to me. And it showed me that I am really like an opinion leader in my field, to the point where they want me to write a whole book about it.
Amazing. So have you started writing? Have you finished writing?
It's done. It's published October 1st. It's actually available for pre-order right now. So you can go on to Barnes and Noble and type in Marcy Ferro and my book will come up.
Awesome. That's incredible.
I know. It is. So it's in the final stages of like proofreading and whatnot. But yeah, the book is complete, and it's really
good for you.
exciting.
I'm so proud of you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what the book's about?
It's an art book. Okay. So it's lots of pictures, lots of really, really pretty pictures. And it's got like 20 different acrylic pouring techniques as well as different acrylic pouring projects and the basics and everything you would need to know to get into acrylic pouring.
Amazing. Good for you. That's incredible. What a rush. That's got to top the 100,000 YouTube followers for sure.
It's pretty close. I mean, definitely when I got my first like advance check, everybody at the post office knew. Like, we had a in there. And then the second that they told me it was available for pre-order, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so, I don't know. The funny thing is it's not even something that's going to make me $1 billion, right? But it's such an accomplishment. And I know how much effort that I put into that book. It actually was way more work than I ever anticipated.
Yeah.
And so it's really cool.
Amazing. Can you tell the audience the title of the book so they know and again, tell them where they could find it?
So you can find it, let me just check. I think it's available currently like for pre-sale on, I know it's on Barnes & Noble, and I believe it's also on Amazon. And then they're putting it on another few websites if it hasn't gone up already, and it's called the Paint Pouring Workshop.
Amazing. So look out for it, folks. Marcy Ferro, the Paint Pouring Workshop, available for pre-sale right now. That's awesome. Yeah. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, whether it be in life or in business or anything of that sort, what would that one piece of advice be to your younger self?
Stay away from the negative people.
Again, the negative people resurfacing.
Well, it's honestly my biggest downfall in life. It's the thing that slowed me down the most because my family is amazing. My parents are just so amazing. So I never luckily ran into that issue with them. My parents always told me that I could do whatever I wanted and, I could be anything I ever wanted, etc. Full support. But then I would get into these relationships and like I was with an artist at one point and he would always compare my art to his and mine was never as good, of course. He was a painter as well and drew and whatever. And so I actually found that I actually stopped art for a couple years.
Wow.
And then in another relationship and it was like, oh, you can't make a career out of that. And like, that's not possible. And that's stupid. And you're not that good. And blah, like, but very like underhandedly to where I didn't even really notice it that much. And then since leaving that, just noticing how much I'm flourishing and prospering and doing well, it's huge. I think that's really the biggest thing. And a lot of times people don't even notice it because the people that are doing that generally pretend to have your best interest in mind.
Right.
They pretend that they're helping you and they may even think that they're helping you, but they're really not.
Right.
So I'd say that's the biggest thing is just, if I could go back in time, there's a few people there that I would have completely avoided and it would have made my life completely different.
Now, as a woman in the art world, do you think that your journey to where you are now has been any more difficult because you're a woman? Do you think that this is something you've had to face along the way?
No.
No. Okay. Has it been easier because you're a woman, do you think?
No? I don't think so. Okay. I mean, I guess if you look at history, the most famous artists were men. I think that's just because the world has changed. Like back in the day, women were mothers and they took care of the household and that's just what they did. They weren't career people. So I think it's just nowadays with women being in the workforce, you're going to see a lot more of that. So I don't think it's that it was more difficult in the past for women specifically, as just it just wasn't what was done. It just wasn't. Women were at home and they took care of the kids and the man went out and made the money, and that's just how it was for up until 50 years ago. Not that long ago. But now if you look at the artists on YouTube, for instance, I'd say the majority of them are women.
Wow.
Yeah, like a high majority of them are women. And I know my audience on YouTube is like 75% women and 25% men. And that's despite the fact that I'm super gorgeous.
That's right.
Yeah, but it just shows you that it's definitely an area that there's a lot of women interested in and a lot of women coming up in. And I think that's true a lot for a lot of the arts.
Yeah. Okay. What, keeping on that track, what would you say is the best advice you've ever received? Again, whether it be in business or in life or as an artist, any of the above. Another tough one. I've stumped you.
Stumped me again. I don't know. I just think of my dad, and he just my entire life has told me that I can do anything that I wanted. Like, just to keep going.
Yeah.
Just literally just keep going and it will work out. And sometimes I look at him and I say, you're full of shit. And stop saying that, Dad. He loves to say, his words specifically are, everything will be okay.
Right.
And it's funny because I actually have a whole song about that on my album now. But yeah, it's true. As long as I've just kept that in mind and just kept going, no matter what opposition I ran into, it's always worked out. Always, always, always.
You just have to keep that positivity and keep the drive going.
Yeah.
And lastly, what does the word empowerment mean to you, Marcy?
I think that is something that comes from within, personally. Because if you look at the world, you can, there's plenty of super rich people that have everything they could possibly need to achieve everything they could possibly need to achieve, and they don't, because it's not a money or a time thing or a social status or whatever. None of those things are necessarily a factor. So I think it's something that's from within, and it's just that same message of knowing that you can do it and it's fully within your reach and capabilities to be successful at whatever you want to be successful at.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted to say thank you very much for taking the time to spend with me here today. It was a pleasure chatting with you, as always. My name is Brad Walsh, host of the Empowerography podcast. My guest today has been Marcy Ferro, artist, author, YouTuber, amazing woman, musician, all of that. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and I look forward to chatting with you again. Hopefully you'll come back. Maybe once your book is out and your album is out, you can come back and we can chat about all that stuff.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you, Marcy. You have yourself a wonderful day. Thank you again for being a guest, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Sounds good. Bye.
Thanks. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at viseuphoria.ca and follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.